Happy Friday, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Strategy Talk here at YaZo. Super excited to be diving into a critical topic for every small and medium-sized business that's out there, search optimization in 2025 and as we plan ahead to 2026. As I'm sure you all know, search is not going anywhere. It is changing quite a bit, but it is absolutely not going anywhere. So we're going to be talking a lot about what does the future look like for search, how people ask questions, where are they searching from, how AI delivers answers, and with voice search, hyperlocal intent, mobile first indexing, all of the AI driven algorithms, all of these are shaping the landscape and SMBs can't afford to treat it as an afterthought. So super excited to dive into it and unpack what we've got today. So Angie, why don't you kick us off? Just a little bit of a 30,000 foot view.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting because there's always been the idea of search having a formula that a business owner, a marketing person needs to understand the formula. In fact, one of our key team members in ad management always called it a credit score. Like you have a credit score, and the more you understand the algorithm and you apply the check marks, I do that, I do that, I do that, I do that. The higher you come up in the search ranking, right? And it's some things that are still relevant today, like your reviews being good reviews, being current reviews.
Absolutely.
That's not going anywhere. Things like video, that was especially big when Google purchased YouTube, and then they like put that into the algorithm. So like having YouTube videos was a big part of it. So all of these things, it's not that they're going away. It's just like your credit score, understanding what makes up your credit score is changing.
Absolutely.
And there's new things coming in that you're going to get into and share a little bit of like some of the acronyms that are new for people to understand. But we have to understand that people are now literally talking and chatting like you have a conversation with a human. So people are going on, whether it's Google, Bing, whether they're using ChatGPT, and they're asking human questions. And the more human you are in your response and making sure that it's not confusing, the higher your credit score. So that idea of credit score, I love because people understand it. Like a credit score gives you a higher score. This is like the more you understand these things and can check them off, and you can't do it overnight. Like it's a formula and a process that you learn and educate yourself on. And we are going to continue to learn as an organization because it's changing rapidly.
Yeah, it's ever evolving. And I think it's, you've got to continue to stay on the learning edge of it because every week, every day, there's a new tactic, there's a new tool, there's a new strategy. So, I think the biggest thing here that we often see is folks become overwhelmed because of that speed and change, and they're just like, I don't know how to move forward. So it's almost like analysis paralysis, right? They just stop in their tracks and they don't move. That's really where we're trying to be there as a strategic leader for you and a sounding board for you to help guide our clients to what makes the most sense given your budget, given your resources, and where do we see the biggest impact. So five quick things that we're going to go through. Obviously, the rise of voice search, right? We're seeing that. We saw it previously. We're continuing to see it. Local SEO as the growth engine, getting into that. What does local SEO mean? And then mobile first equals business first. Everything, well, I shouldn't say everything, but over 50% of searches are happening on mobile. So if you are not a mobile ready website, it's going to be impacted. And then these last kind of two are super fun. The fourth one is preparing for zero click and AI search. So you guys, zero click may not be something that registers for you, but if you've interacted with ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Perplexity and you have a search, it gives you back a response that is already there. You don't have to dig for the answer. So there's no clicking happening. So that's a very interesting change. And then we're going to get into just some practical action steps for all of you SMB leaders that are out there at the very end. We'll wrap it up and try to give you something actionable to proceed with. So we're going to circle back to the top. Voice search.
Love this one.
This is super exciting. Do you want to jump into it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple points that I want to make, obviously, and I think most people do understand this, that like search queries that are done by voice are typically local.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that is going to become more and more everything by voice,
Yeah.
but it is obviously more local. So, like, think about you're driving around and you want to try a new coffee shop. You're going to be like, coffee shop near me. Like, and it is local, and local search is a big thing. There's a lot going on, even with, Google for local, that people need to understand. And it can change a business so quickly, that voice search capability. But it's also understanding, like, what do people say to get me in a voice search?
Yeah. And
Like,
that's it.
that's like, because for us, I think about, I went through this exercise just recently for our agency, because we have a bunch of changes to make, and it was like, um where we did and didn't come up depended on what I
Mhm.
said into the search, and then
It's super
noting
interesting.
where I don't come up, we have to make changes.
Make changes. Exactly. And I think so that's really some action items, some takeaways. That's really where it starts, is setting down and having a brainstorming with your team. It does not just need to be marketers. It should be folks that are on the sales side. It should be customer service folks or customer facing folks. And then you're going to want to have ideas to bounce off of folks that are outside of your organization, because typically how you view it internally is not how it's viewed externally. And doing that sort of whiteboarding session or strategy session about how are folks talking about it, what's the conversation, that is really what dictates voice search, because that's how you talk into your phone. You're having a conversation with it. It's not shoes or dresses or how we typically would type. It's more conversational. So that when you take that into account, you need to make sure that you're building out FAQ rich content that has that conversational language that's tied into it. So you've got to
Yes.
really start, there's a strategy behind it, but it's all about starting with how are folks talking about our business, our services, or our products.
Yeah. So
So
true.
that's the big piece. And I think it's just important to note from a stat perspective, we are looking at some reports that are out there. By the end of 2025, 50% of all searches will be voice based. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, because even when you go like on vacation, you'll say,
I just did it
antique
last
shop.
weekend. Yeah.
Yes, I did it too a couple weekends ago with my husband, like antique shop near me.
Yes.
Well, that is local. And see, that's the other thing that is like, you have to understand, it's travelers finding you are considered local because they're
Mm-hmm.
in your local area. But even like, I have talked to people who say they want to find a technology. They'll say best technology for blah, blah, blah. And that's not local.
Absolutely.
So it is going to be all
It is.
eventually.
Yeah, it is. And it's something to be, I think that goes back to more of the conversational piece. There's voice, obviously, like we said, is 3 times more tied to local. But if you just take the local aspect out of it and focus on the conversational language, the FAQ piece, that's really about where the more B2B impact will be made.
Yeah.
So local SEO as a growth engine, I think this is super interesting. Obviously, we've talked about this for quite some time, knowing, Google business profiles or Google My Business, what it used to be and how it's changing. But a lot of what happens on mobile is tied to local. So
Yes.
78% of local mobile searches lead to offline purchases within 24 hours. That's, again, a pretty wild stat. So you want to make sure that you're optimizing your Google business profile. Reviews, we talk about all the time. What local listings are out there? How are your listings showing up? Are they accurate? Do they have the right times? Do they have all of that jazz? Is important. And it goes back to your point, Angie, at the beginning. It impacts your quote unquote credit score. So if you have a
Yes.
bunch of mixed matched listings, they don't know what information to pull, therefore it lowers your ranking. So that's
Yes.
all about just optimizing your local presence, your local profiles.
And I've done this for clients in the past, and it's funny to see where it's gone. I think the last time I did one of these, for a client, which is like a directory, finding a directory search, to now how much more important it's become. Because like what I found in the last one I did, was that they didn't even know that they were out on a lot of these directories. So, I mean, that depends on the business, because there's directories that people can add you to, certainly higher ranking in some industries than in others. So like retail, schools, things that are service, you have to be really careful. But like you'll go out on those directories and they don't even list correct information for that organization or business. And because the way search is now, especially with chat type searches, they pull from all of these things. You're getting mixed information. So one thing that also is super interesting to me that I found out recently with technology is, obviously, depending on where you buy a computer or whatever, so like, for example, if Bing is set as the search, people are actually using it more because it's already predispositioned to be the search engine that comes up. And because it's a lower ranking search engine in terms of the general population, they're not looking at, well, I don't even have a profile out there, or the profile is like completely wrong. So all of these things are because chat, for example, let's just say ChatGPT as a general, because people generally know that now, will pull from Bing. So it's not like a Google only. It's not monopolized by Google. So
it's very much like search agnostic. I mean, you have to make sure that you are touching every area where there's potential searches happening. I mean, because to your point, those are all factors, and you don't want to have mix match, because it then negatively impacts your ranking. So listings are huge.
Yeah, and I'll say one last thing, and that is, like, I was having a conversation with someone who didn't realize that this whole search agnostic part of it, like, well, I only use Google. Well, I get that you only use Google.
That's a very subjective answer, though.
Right. But if you have a Bing profile or whatever, I'm just using that as an example because it's on top of my head because I just had the conversation, but like, and it's all wrong, it's going to go first to the business. I'm not saying you won't be in that, like, but it's going to go first to the business that has the higher credit score, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So again, just going back to thinking about local intent equals high intent, really you should be optimizing those local-based profiles. So your Google My Business, are you out there? And I think the other thing to consider is, particularly for those service-based businesses, we've touched on it briefly before, but explore local service ads. If you aren't at least understanding that they're there, some of them aren't always available to you in your service area. And, not every business is covered, but it is an area now that Google is really enhancing, and they are really pushing as a verified business. You automatically are pushed up to the top. So it's something to consider from a local perspective, particularly those in the service-based businesses, is local service ads with Google. Jumping to sort of mobile, or continuing the discussion around mobile and local. Again, we talked about all of the searches that are happening on mobile. Those sites that are optimized for mobile, or are mobile ready or mobile first, they see a 32% higher conversion rating. Pretty crazy, which makes a lot of sense though, because if you imagine, you do a search, you get on your phone, we are so ingrained now to swipe a couple times, and that's it. If we don't find what we're looking for, we're out, we're on to the next thing. So if
we can't read it because it's like off screen or whatever, we're just like, this is so annoying.
We just go to the next thing because we're lazy. So we created a society where you need to be able to have mobile ready content from a high conversion. So site speed, to your point, responsive design, and very simple UX. Less is more. You don't want to completely busy, distracting. You want to lean into what is your key message, what is your key offer, make sure it's there and available. So just some simple things about mobile first is business first. So if you really want to optimize your business, talk about it, look at it as it exists on mobile. Keeping us rolling into zero click and AI search, because I want to spend a little bit of time here. This one I'm super excited about. We've talked a lot about recently, the use of AI and AIO search and what does it mean? All these new acronyms. Really what it comes down to is going back to this, FAQ styled search, making sure that you have featured snippets, structured data, that really will determine how you show up. So this
Yes.
0-click answer, right? This is about visibility, not just traffic. We always used to worry about how much traffic, what's the traffic hitting to our site? How much are we driving? Well, now it's actually visibility. Like what, because folks aren't clicking through the traffic. They just want the answer, and they want to be able to act on that answer. So one of the things to look at is they call it EAT. It's EEAT: expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. That is really what's driving the rankings in AI-driven algorithms. So expertise, experience, authority, trustworthiness. Expertise and experience is really going to come down in your content writing. How are you writing about your service, your product,
Yes.
etc.? Authority is really going to be where it comes down to your site from an authority perspective, plus your external sites. What are those referral backlinks to your sites? Are they trusted, true links? And then the trustworthiness goes hand in hand with authority. If you have a higher authority, you're seen as a more trustworthy business. And then the other trustworthy element of it is testimonials. And what's search, or excuse me, social. What does your social profile look like? What are people saying about you on social? So that all kind of correlates into your
Interviews.
overall ranking. Google reviews.
Yes.
Yes. So
Yeah. So I want to say, like, I have just been thinking about this a lot lately because we're working on, some things for a client, a newer client that's like, what are our KPIs? Like what are
yes.
our key performance indicators? And I was literally just last evening, as I was spending hours like thinking this through, like, not at first, but as this continues to grow,
Absolutely.
we're used to like, okay, your Google Analytics and what page are, and when you're thinking about, and one way to do this is to like chat about your own organization, because I've done it, is like, first of all, this blew my mind, and this could change. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm an absolute expert on it because I'm in learning mode. But what I understand is that with chat, if I chat something in there as the person, the owner of the organization, like YaZo, I'm chatting about YaZo, or I'm chatting about marketing in Pennsylvania, and I don't come up, it doesn't change it depending on who chats about. So like do you understand what I'm saying? Like with a Google search, it kind of depends on where you're located, like all of those things. And once you search it, then you keep getting the same thing. So it's almost like you got to keep clearing. And from what I'm understanding, like chat is a little bit different. So it's almost like a truer version of your presence online, because all these things impact Google, like where you're sitting, how many times you search that business, like
what's your budget, all of that.
It'll come up because I've searched that business. Like for me to sit down and search one of our clients on Google, it will come up higher because I've already searched that business, right? So it's not like you have to clear all your cache, like you have to do all this stuff to get a true search. My understanding, again, and I'm actually doing educational stuff right now with this, is that chat is a little bit truer search.
It's leveled the playing field. It's not so much driven based off of, what's your wallet, how much budget do you have? It has really gone back to true content. How is it written? What is it? What's the overall authority of it? What's the expertise? All of that is going to continue to push marketers, us and outside marketers, to really focus on that conversational content, that sort of featured snippet content, because ultimately, to your point, there is less focus on budget, and it's more about what is the context, what is the user intent.
Expertise,
Which again
authority.
goes back to expertise, experience, authority, trustworthiness. All of those are factors that impact the AI-driven algorithms. And of course, you still have your core web vitals, like your critical signals, like how much traffic, all that stuff still matters, but it's not as heavy as a focus as it used to be. So again, I think it goes back to sort of it levels the playing field in a way, and it allows you to get a strategy to put in place to say, how do we take advantage of this? How are we writing our content? Does our content need to change? Does the way the topics that we're writing about need to change? The format need to change? The cadence, the amount of content that we're creating, does that need to change? So I think it's a cool time to be involved in marketing, because there is so much change happening that you can sort of take a step back and say, okay, we can reanalyze and reposition ourselves really strongly for this change in the total ecosystem of marketing.
Yeah, and I guess one piece of advice I just want to give people is, like, education is hugely important. And so there are so many educational tools available now, YouTube, other things. It doesn't have to be that you find that can educate you on how this works. And I don't care if you think you're the most savvy marketer out there. It's continuing to change. Keep educating yourself. Don't get stuck that you know it all, because it's changing. And I think, this is my point. Even if you don't want to use AI in your organization, you're against AI, and I get it, because I'm like, this is getting out of control in terms of like the possibilities of negative possibilities, right?
Yeah.
You have to educate on how you present. Even if you don't use it, you have to educate how you present to increase your credit score. So don't think this is about like, everything has to be done through AI, but you have to understand how AI works, because that is how search is going.
100%.
And to say, I'm just saying, don't turn a blind eye to it, because a lot of times you can get in this thought, like, I don't want to use AI, it's dark, but your business is being searched that way. So we've got to really stay educated and understand how this is working.
Absolutely. Well, then I want to give 5 quick action steps for you SMB leaders, you marketing leaders that are out there, just to sort of recap this whole thing. 5 quick things. First is, do a monthly audit of your Google business profile and your directories. It's super important, and it is an easy win. It's an easy way for you guys to make an impact. That's 1. 2, do a sort of a review and audit or a schema markup for your FAQs. What do you have listed on your website? What does the services page on your website looks like? What does the products page on your website look like? Making sure that those are optimized. And then the next step of that is take a look at your site speed. What is your mobile performance? Do that on a quarterly basis. At least check in to make sure that you're not having a negative impact on how your pages are loading. What is the mobile? Are there updates that are happening on the PHP end or on the back end of your website? So that's just a quarterly check-in. And then the last 2 pieces are build content around conversational queries. Again, going back to this voice search thing, making sure that you're understanding how folks are talking. What's the conversation about your products, your business, your services? And then last but not least, it's important to track, to your point, Angie, the featured snippets. So like when you do a search on Google, what is that featured snippet that comes up?
Yes.
And then what is the voice search visibility? So do a voice search. Are you coming up? And then dig into that, understanding where you are today and how can you make that impact going forward. So I really think it's important to just frame it around this shift from searching with your fingers to searching with voices. That's kind of the easiest way to talk about it. We're not doing this anymore. We're just kind of talking into it. So it's all about being conversational and mastering that mobile optimization. So appreciate you guys digging in with us. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, drop a comment. We love to have the conversations with you about your business and where you are today. And remember, visibility isn't optional. It's about where you are today, and businesses that adapt now will dominate the search tomorrow. So we appreciate you tuning in. Let's keep building smarty strategies together.
Thank you for your time.
Hey, and it's game day Friday. We are Penn State. I had to say it because I'm an alum. Football season. But appreciate you all. Have a great Friday. Take care, team.